if they are just going to kind of trample on that and not speak truth and not report the facts and not let us make up our minds, but they instead trying to prejudice the public opinion by reporting not the facts, but their opinion. It just infuriates me, and it has so much to do with my love of our Constitution, my respect for our military, and I do not want to see that freedom of our press abused any longer. That's why I'm always up on my high horse about the press. Anyway, the media still doesn't have that one right, fairly and accurately covering that incident, and it saddens me for our freedoms. Back to some of these things going on in the Obama administration, loyal NATO allies in Central Europe were undermined by the cancellation of a missile defense program with virtually no warning. Oh, that really ingratiated ourselves with these allies. At the same time, Russia and China are given preferential treatment while remaining silent on their human rights violations. Meanwhile, the Obama administration reaches out to some of the world's worst regimes. This is where their priorities are skewed, folks. They shake hands with dictators like Hugo Chavez and send personal letters to Iranian mullahs and envoys to North Korea and ease sanctions on Cuba and talk about doing the same with Burma now. And that's when they're not on their worldwide apology tour. And you have to ask, do they think really that we're getting anything in return for all this bowing and kowtowing and apologizing? No, we don't get anything positive in return for this. Yes, Russia did vote for a weak sanctions resolution on Iran, but then it immediately stated that it could sell advanced anti-aircraft missiles to Iran anyway, and would not end its nuclear cooperation. That's just all okay. And in response to North Korea's unprovoked sinking of a South Korean Navy ship, China warned us not to participate in military exercises with our own ally. So, while President Obama lets America get pushed around by the likes of Russia and China, our allies are left to wonder about the value of an alliance with our country anymore. They're asking, what is it worth? It has led one prominent Czech official to call Obama's foreign policy, and this is kind of harsh, but the Czech official did call it enemy-centric. And this enemy-centric approach has real consequences. It not only baffles our allies, but it worries them. When coupled with less defense spending, it signals to the world that, well, maybe we can no longer be counted on, and that we have other priorities in being the world leader that keeps the peace and provides security in places like Europe and Asia and throughout the world. They ask, are we still that shiny city on a hill? They wonder. Together with this perceived enemy-centric foreign policy, we see a lessening of the long bipartisan tradition of speaking out for human rights and for democracy and freedom. You have to ask yourself, what is going on? The White House said that, well, we're not even going to raise human rights issues with China because, quote, we pretty much know what they're going to say. Democracy promotion programs have been cut. Support for the brave Iranians protesting their corrupt government was not forthcoming because President Obama would rather try to cut a deal with their oppressors. See, when the world's dictators see the United States seeming to be unconcerned with human rights and political freedom, they breathe a sigh of relief, and they know that they have a free hand then to repress the people in their countries. And that ultimately makes us less safe. It makes the world a more dangerous place. This goes against the very ideals on which our republic was founded. And as I said, there's a long bipartisan tradition of speaking out in favor of freedom. From FDR to Ronald Reagan, America loses something very important when its own president consigns human rights and freedom to the back burner of its international priorities. Freedom, security, that should be the most important part of foreign policy. We have a president, though, perhaps for the very first time since the founding of our republic, who doesn't appear to believe that America is the greatest earthly force for good that the world has ever known. When asked whether he believed in American exceptionalism, President Obama answered, quote, "I believe in American exceptionalism, just as I suspect that the Brits believe in British exceptionalism, and that the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism. Folks, this statement speaks volumes about his worldview. He sees nothing unique, really nothing unique in the American experience of our founding fathers and mothers and our history over the past 2.5 centuries. Really. He sees nothing unique in an America that fought and won 2 world wars, and in victory, though, sought not 1 inch of territory or $1 of plunder. Really. And he sees nothing unique in an America that, though exhausted by conflict, still laid the foundation for people's security in Europe and Asia after World War II. And he sees nothing unique in an America that prevailed against an evil ideology in the Cold War. He sees a country that has to be apologized for instead around the world, especially to dictators. President Obama actually seems reluctant to even embrace valuable, useful, peacekeeping American power. Earlier this year, when he was asked about his faltering Middle East peace process, he said, well, whether we like it or not, we remain a dominant military superpower. I heard that and I said, whether we like it or not, Mr. President, yes, most Americans like it. We recognize it, we respect it, we know why it's there. Most Americans actually do like it, and so do our allies. They know it was our military might that liberated countless millions from tyranny, slavery, and oppression over the last 234 years. As a dominant superpower, the United States has won wars hot and cold. Our military has advanced the cause of freedom and kept authoritarian powers in check. Good God, yes, we want to be a dominant superpower. We do. It is in America's and the world's best interest that we are. But under President Obama's leadership, that dominance, it seems to be slipping away. It's the result of an agenda that reeks of complacency, politics, and political correctness. Some would say defeatism. This is how one of Obama's own supporters, the New York Times columnist Bob Herbert, recently put it, quote, as a nation, we are becoming more and more accustomed to a sense of helplessness. We no longer rise to great challenges before us. We can't seem to do much of anything. The greatness of the United States, which so many have taken for granted for so long, is steadily slipping away. I read that. Helplessness? Decline? Unable to rise to the challenges before us? Is that really what we want for America? I say not just no, but hell no! That's not what we want for America. And that's the message we must send to our president. Enough with the defeatism and the bowing and kowtowing and the apologizing. Enough. Now, we could try to change the mind of the administration, but let's be honest, I don't think we'll get very far with that.